Hi everyone, Kirk here with Kirk's Motorrad Shop and the BMW Motorrad Club of Northern Illinois. Today I'm going to be talking to you about shocks and springs for your LT or for any other motorcycle that you might have. Could be a GS or an RT, or maybe it's even a different brand. Anyway, there is a whole wide world of a better ride by putting on some new springs and shocks on your LT. I have an LT here, so that's what I'm talking about. So, what are your options? Well, your bike came with these right here. These are the original springs, and it is my experience that these springs tend to wear out severely within about 30 to 40,000 miles, depending on how you ride, how heavy you are, and how much load you're putting on the bike. They wear out quick. And what I noticed on my motorcycle when I first started looking into should I change out the springs is when I would get into a corner, like a big sweeper or something where I was going a little bit faster and I was heavily loaded, the bike would start to porpoise. It would start to wallow in the turns. The other thing is, if I had my wife on the back, I would scrape through the turns, even on the low speed turns, just turning left or right, at an intersection. I'd go around the corner and I would hear the center stand starting to scrape on the ground. So I started investigating to see what was the best situation for the amount of money that I had, and what I chose at that time was to go with an option just like this. This is a set of Hyper Pro springs on the OEM shocks. That is a very, very good option. If you already have this option on your motorcycle, you know that is probably one of the most significant changes you can do to your LT is to put Hyper Pro springs right onto the OE shocks, as long as the shocks are in good condition. It wakes up this bike. It feels more stable on the road. It stops that scraping. The braking actually feels better because it's not diving as much. And it really is it's a fantastic low-cost option. A set of these springs will set you back roughly about $300. That's for both the front and the rear. Of course, installation, if you don't install it yourself, is going to be additional money. But, of course, you're prepared for that because you own a BMW, and you know that everything that has to do with the BMW means more money. So, the other option that you have is to go with a completely custom set, or one that's already built. Here's an Olin set right here. This is for the LT as well. The original spring here. Let's talk about springs. You've got this constant rate spring. You can see all the coils are very even spaced. On this one that's behind me here, this is a progressive rate spring. So it has real tight coils here at the bottom, and as it goes up toward the action end of the shock, it has wide spaced coils. So this one basically has two spring rates. Let's just say, I don't know what the numbers are on this, but let's just say that this is for 150 pounds and these are for 300. What happens is as it tightens up, it will switch into that other spring rate, so that way if you're loaded up with two people, you won't bottom the shock out. It's not going to bottom out like this one would. This one has one spring rate, and it will be the same. Let's just say it's 150 just for the sake of numbers. It will be 150 all the way till it binds, until the coils smack into each other and it binds up. Same can be said for the front spring. You can see it's a constant rate spring. Nothing wrong with constant rate springs. There's nothing wrong with progressive rate springs. Just know what you're getting before you go ahead and make your purchase. Really think about the type of riding that you do and how you ride. If you're somebody that's very easy on your motorcycle, single rate spring might be for you. If you're somebody that rides varied, so meaning like, you ride alone, you ride two up, you ride heavy, you ride light, maybe that type of spring is right for you. What you get when you put this on here in terms of how good is the ride? Well, I can only put numbers to it and, just say it's on a 1 to 10 scale. This one, when they're worn out, these are sitting at about a 0 or maybe a 1. You go with a set like this, you're looking at probably anywhere between a 5 and a 7. when it comes to that, 1 to 10 scale. You go with a set of customs, whether they're, the Olin shock like these are, or you can get custom Hyper Pros, depending on who's doing your shock building. That's going to put you right at level, 9 to say 11 on a 1 to 10 scale. It really depends on what you want and how much your budget is. That's going to set you back about $300. A set of these will set you back up to $1,800 maybe. It depends on what you find. You can find some of these on eBay on occasion. These might actually show up on eBay. So that's kind of where you're at cost-wise, and what sets them apart. Okay, so this one, it's got a progressive spring on there, and you can only adjust the preload through your little adjuster knob. What it does is it squashes the spring down a little bit more, so it becomes a little bit tighter. That way, if you're running 2 up, you've got less initial bounce. It's actually taken up some of that bounce, and it makes it a little bit stiffer. It feels a little bit more stiff. It doesn't change the rebound rate at all, and the rebound rate is how fast the spring does this. So like you think of like a pogo stick. A pogo stick has pretty much 0 rebound damping. There's no damping force, so it's just and you can have your bike doing that. If you blow a shock, if you ever blown a shock on a car or on a bike, that it feels like you're riding a pogo stick. The thing's like up, down, up really fast. There's nothing slowing it down. These have a set rate. Who knows what they are, but they're a set rate when it comes to rebound. This type of one here, it's got this thing, you can hear it clicking here. The tighter you make this, it's going to slow down the action. So if you're dialed in, say it's a little bit too tight, and you get through a whole series of bumps where it just, bam, bump, 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 it may not let the shock up fast enough to compensate for the next bump, and then it's too tight. So it's, it will actually start shrinking the shock down until you get through that series of bumps, and then all of a sudden, it'll finally let back up. If it's too light, on the other hand, you hit those bumps, and now it's rebounding, and it's actually almost like doubling your bounce. So you want to be able to dial that in to where you're going through those bumps, and the shocks are returning and actually doing all the work of the shock can do, as well as giving you the proper spring rate. When you have a set of these built for you, you can talk to a shock builder like Ted Porter out in California. You can talk to Klaus over at HyperPro. They can customize, they can put springs on there that match your weight load on your motorcycle. A good shock builder can help you determine exactly what you need and dial in your bike specifically for you. So what do I use on mine? Well, I've used everything on mine at one point or another. I've had the stock springs on there, which I hated. I've had this setup, which was fantastic. And I now am running a set of customs on mine. And the customs have taken it to that level 11 for me. I can adjust the rebound if I feel like there's just too much damping going on. I can lighten that up. If I feel there's not enough, I can dial it in a little bit better. And I can specifically dial in the motorcycle to the way that I'm riding and how much I'm going to push it. So it gives me a little bit more of a firm ride. It's not a harsh ride or a stiff ride. It's more firm. These will do that same thing for you. If you want to put the HyperPros on your bike, that is going to give you a more firm ride. It's not going to be harsh, but it's going to be noticeable change. I highly, highly recommend going with, seriously, anything but these. This is a great option. Those are a great option. The HyperPro ones that they sell, the already pre-made ones, that is a really fantastic option. They all have different characteristics. They all have different build qualities. just do your research, make a decision, and go with something, and you will not be unhappy at all. You're really going to like what you have. And it builds value into your motorcycle. If you choose to sell the bike, that's something that somebody's not going to have to do in the future, and you can use that to help build and hold the value of your motorcycle longer. The other thing is too, is you can keep your stock set or the lesser price set and swap those back out again when you go to sell your motorcycle, and then sell them to somebody else who is really looking for a better ride for their bike. I hope this has answered some of your questions. I really do recommend you try something different on your bike. You will love it. When it comes to some of this stuff, if you got questions, put them down in the comments below. If you want to help out, if you like these videos and you want to see more of them, please check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/KirkJohnson. Also, you can support me through my Amazon link, which is down below. Also, you can pick up the poster. There's other ways. You'll see them right down in the description below if you take a look. That's all I got time for today, and I just hope you got something out of it. Guys, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.